Okay, so welcome back, everyone. For today's deep dive, we're going to be looking at this concept of making someone regret losing you.
Okay.
And specifically, we're going to be taking a look at this book, Make Her Regret Losing You, Robert Greene's mastery.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we get started, I want to just say up front, the title might throw some people off.
Yeah.
It might sound a little bit, manipulative, a little bit scheming,
Toxic.
a little bit toxic, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
That's why we're diving into this, right? We're not actually condoning any of this, like going out there and, trying to manipulate people.
Right.
It's more about understanding the psychology behind it.
Absolutely. And, like you said, taking it with a grain of salt,
Yeah.
recognizing that it is from a particular perspective.
Right.
But that there are these like fundamental things about human nature.
Yes.
That maybe we can all learn from.
Right. And to be clear, the book uses a lot of like male perspective, like it's written as advice for men.
Yeah.
But we're approaching this from like a broader.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like these ideas can really apply to anybody.
100%.
Yeah. In any kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that I kind of wanted to dive into is this idea of absence and value.
Okay.
Which is something that the book talks a lot about.
Right.
It's basically this idea that, when you're constantly available,
Mm-hmm.
when you're always there, always texting, always ready to, like, drop everything.
Yeah.
For someone, it actually kind of diminishes your value.
Makes you less desirable.
Right. Have you noticed that at all in, like, your own life or anything?
It's funny because I feel like we see this all the time. Like,
Mhm.
not even just romantically, but like,
Yeah.
like when you're a kid and there's that toy that everybody wants,
Mm-hmm.
suddenly it's like the most valuable thing in the world.
Right, the one you can't have.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like in psychology, there's this thing called reactance theory. And it basically says that like whenever our freedom to choose is limited,
Mm-hmm.
we tend to want that thing even more.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So it's like almost this like reverse psychology thing.
Yeah,
So I think in relationships that definitely plays out.
totally.
Like if you think about it in terms of like the book gives this example of someone who's like always super available.
Right.
And then after a breakup, they just like disappear.
Mm-hmm.
They're not chasing their ex. They're not blowing up their phone.
They're just living their life.
They're just focused on themselves. Right.
Right.
And the book argues that that can actually trigger regret in the ex.
Interesting.
Because suddenly they're like, oh, wait a minute.
Where'd they go?
Yeah, they're not there anymore.
Right. And it's not even necessarily because they miss them.
Right.
It's just that they're not used to them not being there.
Exactly. It's that shift in the dynamic.
Right. And I think that goes back to like what you were saying about,
Like the scarcity thing.
the scarcity. Yeah. And like having that sense of self.
Absolutely.
Like if you're so focused on the other person and getting their validation,
Mm-hmm.
it can kind of make you seem a little bit, I don't know, less confident.
Clear, yeah.
Yeah.
But when you pull back and you're like, no, I'm going to focus on myself.
Right.
I'm going to prioritize my own growth.
Yeah.
That changes the whole game.
Totally. And I think that actually ties into the next idea from the book, which is mystery
Okay. Yeah.
and attraction.
Right.
And I think this is something that, we've all kind of experienced in some way.
Yeah.
Like that initial, like when you first meet someone and there's that sense of mystery.
The unknown.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
It's so exciting, right?
Yeah.
And the book argues that like when you reveal too much about yourself too soon,
Mm-hmm.
it can make you predictable.
Yeah. You lose that spark.
You lose that spark, yeah.
Like, if you lay all your cards out on the table,
Right.
there's no room for curiosity.
Right, exactly. And I think that goes back to what you were saying about like,
The freedom of choice.
Yeah.
Like when we don't know everything about someone,
mm-hmm.
our imagination can kind of run wild.
Right.
We fill in the blanks.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
Exactly. And that's what keeps us coming back for more.
The book uses this example of someone who used to like overshare
Mm-hmm.
and then suddenly becomes super private.
Right.
And it makes their ex like wonder.
What are they up to? What's changed?
Yeah, like why are they so secretive now?
Exactly.
And it creates this intrigue.
Mhm.
Obviously, you don't want to take this too far and like become like totally closed off.
Right. You don't want to be a completely different person.
Right, but it's about finding that balance.
Yeah, I think it's more about being mindful
Yeah,
about what you share and when you share it.
right. And with whom?
Exactly.
Like, there's a time and a place for vulnerability,
Absolutely.
but you don't have to like spill your guts to everyone you meet.
Yeah. Vulnerability is powerful,
It is.
but it's also something to be cherished and protected.
Mhm.
It's not something you just throw around lightly.
Right. And I think that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving on to the last big idea from the book,
Okay.
which is self-improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And the book's argument is that personal development
Mm-hmm.
can actually make someone regret their decision to leave you.
I see.
Why do you think that is?
I think I have a slightly different take on this one.
Okay.
Because while the book focuses on the external validation,
Okay.
like your ex seeing you transform and being like, oh, I messed up,
Right.
I think the real power of self-improvement comes from the internal shift.
Interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, think about it this way.
Yeah.
When you dedicate yourself to personal growth,
Hmm.
when you're working on yourself, learning new skills, taking care of your physical and mental health,
Yeah.
it boosts your self-esteem,
Right.
your confidence.
Totally.
And that, in turn, makes you more attractive.
To everyone.
Yeah, to everyone, whether it's your ex, potential new partners, even just in your everyday interaction.
Yeah, you just radiate a different energy.
Exactly. It's not about trying to get someone back.
Right.
It's about becoming the best version of yourself, period.
I love that.
You know?
Yeah, and the book gives this example of someone who throws themselves into self-improvement after a breakup.
Right.
Like they might start working out, focusing on their career, developing new skills.
Mm.
They're not doing it for their ex, they're doing it for themselves.
Right.
And ironically, that's what makes them even more desirable.
Yeah. Because it shows you have standards.
Mhm.
You're not willing to settle for less than you deserve.
You're on a path of growth,
Exactly.
and that's attractive.
It's magnetic.
So to recap, we've basically explored this idea of, like, the power of absence,
Yeah.
the allure of mystery, and then that transformative potential of self-growth.
Hmm.
And, while all of these ideas are presented in this context of making someone regret losing you,
Right.
I think they have much broader implications
Absolutely.
for how we approach relationships, and more importantly, I think, how we view ourselves.
Yeah, it all comes back to self-love, right?
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, if you're not happy with yourself,
Mhm.
no one else can make you happy.
It's so true.
So instead of fixating on making someone regret their choices,
Right.
what if we shifted our focus to becoming the best versions of ourselves for
Yeah.
our own well-being?
I think that's a great takeaway.
Yeah, because ultimately that's what will attract healthy and fulfilling relationships.
I love that.
Food for thought.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that about wraps it up for this deep dive.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for listening, everybody.
See ya.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.